Hey guys, okay, so I wanted to kind of give this message that I've been thinking about lately. So the desert has been coming up a lot, like in my own life, and just like things going on. So I'll kind of tell the story how. Um, if you're on my TikTok, then you know that I just recently finished The Alchemist, and it's taken me 3 years to do so. Finish The Alchemist. Um, but not only The Alchemist, as we know, it's centered in the desert around Egypt. I did kind of like a personal check-in for myself, so I pulled cards for myself using my nature oracle over here, and one of the first cards to pop out was the desert. So I was like, okay, in my mind, that's like, don't procrastinate, finish the book. Finish, so that was my first thing. I was like, okay, well, immediately in my day, I'm going to be listening to this book about, the journey of Santiago and how he found his personal legend and just him identifying with himself and what he was meant to do here. Because I am going through a lot of those same things. So the desert card came out and I was like, okay, I'm going to be listening to The Alchemist today. And so I did, whatever. I finished the book. Not whatever. It was a great book. I finished the book. And I was telling my mother, like, if I had finished this book when it was recommended to me, understanding this, and even, to be honest, for readers, understanding, like, it's the journey of the fool in a lot of ways. It would just make a lot of the things that we see easier to deal with and to understand. So the desert comes out in my card. And so I'm like, yeah, I'll finish The Alchemist. The desert comes up again, only because I was listening to this song yesterday, that I used to like and it's not important because that's not even the important song. It kind of was. It was another like little check-in, self-check-in, but I started scrolling on YouTube for the next song to listen to, and I'm looking for something that I want to listen to, but all of it's like R&B. And I'm like, I don't want to hear any of this right now because I already heard that one. I'm not trying to listen to. I was just looking for something different. So I was scrolling and I found Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey, There Can Be Miracles, from the Prince of Egypt. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll listen to it. Prince of Egypt, Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, dynamic duo, right? Just take that in mind. Take that as one of the hints. Dynamic duo. Two powerhouses. And emotionally, I started like getting like, wow. It's not the first time I've heard this song, but I'm like, dang, wow. My body starts feeling, and I'm like, okay, I want to listen to the soundtrack. So I go to the soundtrack. And the first song, obviously, is Deliver Us. This is in the beginning of the movie. And I start bawling like a baby. Now, there are a lot of things going on, but there's not anything that's immediately going to make me just sit up here and start crying like that. Yes. But I understood, and I think I understood it on a cellular level at that time, what was really going on. And so this is the largest or the larger message. What? My nose is like runny. It's not like runny, but it's like, okay, so this is like part of the biggest message is the Deliver Us. So obviously there are certain messages in this that I'm trying to relate to as far as like the desert and the shepherd. Moses also finding his personal legend because he went from a prince to a shepherd, but delivered an entire nation of people. The alchemist found his personal legend and he delivered himself. So it's not necessarily about one or the other. It's just kind of the message about the journey. But all of the steps and all of the real stuff that it takes. Sorry. I was smoking. I need to go get my cup. I think that's why I'm talking slower too, because I was really like at first. I was like, hold on, chill. So I don't know if this makes it better or worse, but but really all of the stuff that it takes to get to the point of deliverance, right? And it really does take a journey. And to be honest, I've hated the word journey so much lately. Like, it's just been, every time I hear the word journey, I'm just like, because everything is just a journey now, instead of it just being, you know, I don't know. But that's just kind of like, instead of it just being, it's like a journey. But the thing is, the end of our journey is like our eternal deliverance. So, I don't know. It's just something about having that in mind, but still going through the ebb and flow, right? So, I don't know. So, and oddly enough, later on, and this is why, that's not the only instances of the desert. I feel like I missed a whole chunk of that, and I kind of did. So when I was doing this reading about someone, I was doing a general reading on TikTok about dreams. I kind of started getting the, like the, image of Twitch from holes, right? And so when I bring up Twitch from holes, it's kind of like, let's look at his character and what he had going on, right? That's kind of what I was kind of pointing out about Twitch. So whether you have like an anxiety disorder or you're like anxious avoidant or something, that could kind of be pinned out, or you know someone who is. But I started getting Twitch from holes, and I thought that and it's not necessarily about Twitch, because I also bring up the other two. I bring up the main two, Stanley and Hector, right? But I got a reference of them in a Gemini reading that I did, because I was talking about Hector, but also how that friendship that they had and them discovering their personal legends in the freaking desert, mind you, before any of this stuff started coming up. So that's why I'm like, there's something up like going on around the desert or something, like it has to be, unless this is just, I don't know. But they followed their personal legend and they ended up breaking generational curses doing that. So I do have that Gemini reading saved in my like editing thing, but it's, I don't know. I may upload it, I may not, but it's still in my phone. I just never uploaded it. So, but they broke their generational curse, right? They secured their lives all by going through the shit that they had to freaking go through. And to be honest, on Stanley's behalf and on Hector's behalf, it wasn't even their fault that they was in that shit. It was the fault of, oh, wow, generations. That's why it's coming together. Okay, I just really tried to record this video on TikTok and I didn't feel like I really expressed it clear enough, so it's still sitting in my drafts. but I think I'm gonna have to go and upload it because this is the main thing. Deliver us from generational curses, or that's what us on our journey, that's what we're meaning to do. And regardless of who we meet or what we do along that way, you know, it's just kind of like part of that experience. What we do counts for generations, just as what our ancestors did before us counted for generations. So my main thing with that Gemini reading was that I guess I will have to upload it, but the main thing with that Gemini reading was kind of like about, it was more about Hector than it was about Stanley. It was about Hector kind of being like the underdog and the person that nobody took serious. They just wrote Hector off and was just kind of like, you know, all right, well, you're this, you can't even read, he don't talk, he's this, whatever. And he surprised the fuck out of them. Especially, well, we know, because I said it in a Gemini reading, I'm not finna say it again, but we know what he said, we know what he did. And hopefully it doesn't have to get to that point with whoever this is. But even him doing that and breaking away, so maybe that's just us, maybe that's just liberation, or what needs to happen is like a liberation, because as soon as them two people left that camp and they did what they had to do, either together or apart, because we're talking about 3 different stories here from The Alchemist. Or we're talking about The Alchemist, we're talking about the Prince of Egypt, and we're talking about holes. We're really just talking about the desert. Okay. So it's like the liberation, right? Because even though, like I said, certain people are brought back home, it doesn't mean that the things they had to experience along the way didn't mean anything or count for something. It still had to be experienced for the final, you know, for the final thing, for the final, it's been there all along, it's been this all along, it's been home all along type thing, you know? It still had to, they had to process, they had to go through the journey. So, you know, whatever. Dang, generations. That is so crazy, because that's what I wanted to talk about, was regeneration. And how regeneration and reincarnation kind of float within the same idea cloud, but they have significant differences. And I can't tell you each single significant difference right now, but it's mainly, I mean, to me, it's not really that much of a difference, but I have people in my life that would disagree with that. So, you know, because, and if you do know the significant differences, feel free to share. And maybe in the essay, I will, well, we know I will, at some point when this gets edited, I'll go ahead and like write down all of the ideas within the description box, because obviously always read the fine print. But regeneration is kind of what I wanted to talk about today, and the idea of us not being our ancestors, right? When firstly, it is disrespectful as fuck to be like, you know, we're not our ancestors, as if because we have all of this shit, we're somehow better. And I mean, I guess I understand culturally all of the things that had to happen leading up to this point. Generational curses, literally 400-year curses, and even curses before that. Like, I understand. And either familial, like single family, or talking about a nation of people, right? Okay, so generationally, shit, I forgot what I was just saying. The idea, oh yes, right, to say that we're not our ancestors, when, who knows if I will say I probably wouldn't. We, in this cushy ass lifestyle that we live now, if they were to come here, I'm sure they would be able to figure it the fuck out. We would have a lot harder time adjusting. That's why these fucking horror movies that are being played out today, that take modern ass people and throw them back into the fucking slave days, or to see what it was like in slavery and all this shit. Oh boy, like, that's horror to us. So to say, that's crazy as fuck. That's horror to us. That's horror movies. So to sit here and be disrespectful like that and say we're not our ancestors when we look at their life as a fucking horror movie, crazy. Crazy as fuck. Whew. Wow. Regeneration is the idea that we are our ancestors. And there are ideas that, that our ancestors are with us and everything, but they are with us on a cellular level, on a soul level, on a spirit level. I'm getting cold. On a soul level, on a spiritual level, they are with us. So when I started hearing Deliver Us and I started crying, I understood it on a cellular level, because that movie, The Prince of Egypt, that so many of us loved and watched, right? Being as beautiful as it was, there was a different resonance in that movie for people of color, for people with melanin, and not even just African American people with melanin. But there's something that resonated in it, and not just because it's you're watching a Bible story and you're getting emotional because this is what some people had to live through. You're looking at your deliverance. And I know a lot of people don't understand that. You're looking at the deliverance of yourself, of your ancestors, when you watch The Prince of Egypt. It's not some far off idea of what some people had to go through, because, and this is what I was getting into in a personal session, and I feel like I've said it here before, but the karma is memory. So you're watching these things and the body remembers, and it's kind of like, damn. So that's kind of what I was getting at with the whole regeneration thing, is we are our ancestors. And though, yes, I don't, it's kind of like a complicated theory, because then it makes you think about what is like the other side of the veil and things like that, But on a cellular level, on a spiritual level, yes. And who knows, we're probably not all of our ancestors at once. That's probably not possible. Like I said, I will have to look more into that. But that's the idea among Israelite, I don't want to say religion, faith. Whereas Christian faith does not necessarily take that belief. So there would be a difference there. And also like, so obviously when you're looking at the Prince of Egypt, the people being freed were the Israelite people. And so when I give you this, we are our ancestors, and you're watching and you're listening to the tones and the sounds of your first deliverance. You just have to know that there will always be a deliverance. There will always be deliverance, whether on your personal journey, because they were looking for their promised land, the land that they were promised, the things that they were promised, given to them by Yahweh. It's promised. But what do you have to go through before you get there? Stopping in the middle and giving up. In the middle, when you're in the desert portion of your story, you're this close. And that's just kind of what I want to leave you with. Because home is, where you get to. That's like the end. So living this life, going through the experiences, meeting our soul family, connections that you will always take with you. But there is also that idea of the dynamic duo, because like I said, Stanley and Hector, we were talking about Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey earlier. Moses found his wife on his journey throughout the desert, as did Santiago and the Alchemist. So it's just you have to actually take the journey and take the leaps to get there. So that is my message of regeneration. And I hope that it made sense to who it was supposed to make sense to. Oh, and also, I was driving this week and I saw a footprint in the sky. I saw a footprint in the sky, and this could also definitely resonate for me in my journey and what I have going on. But for it to be this prominent, I needed to share because it may resonate with you. The footprint in the sky automatically took me to that verse. My grandmother had this in her house on one of those fake Bibles, but it was like opened up to this verse of the man seeing God's footprints next to him. And then they all of a sudden disappeared when he was going through a hard time. And he was just kind of like, why did you abandon me? Why did you desert me? Why did you kind of leave me stranded? And so, that the desert could be that feeling of desertion, or feeling just kind of out there, or not knowing how to get to what you want to get to. But you have to know that you're being carried. Yahweh is carrying you through this. And it may look rough and it may look the way it looks right now, but it's just part of what we have to go through. And that sounds very sucky, but like I said, you're this close. That sounds so cheesy to say I saw a footprint in the sky and I thought about that Bible verse, but I really did. And I'm not gonna be like, that's what I thought about. So the idea of regeneration again comes up because, and it's not to compare our struggles at all, but if we are living embodiments of who we were then, or we keep coming back, maybe in different physical forms, but as we see a lot of times, it's really not different physical forms. Y'all can look at those pictures where they be talking about people from the past look like people from now. I mean, and that could be for a completely different reason. We ain't even got to talk about that, but I mean, it could be in different physical forms, but it could just be same spirit and things like that. You have all of this shit. Our people have been through so much. And you, no matter who your ancestors were, to be honest, because we don't even have to limit it to just being of people of melanin, because it could be anyone. But think about the things that your ancestors had to do and get through. That's embodied in you on a cellular, molecular, atom, makeup, matter level. You can do this. It's in you. It's who you are. You don't have to feel deserted. This is literally just the beginning. The book of The Alchemist is about 2 to 3 years long. And there was things along the way, but imagine, as I said, if I would have finished this 3 years ago, who knows? And it's not to look at it like that, but procrastination is a big thing. 2 to 3 years of solid, like either going for the goal and what it is that you want and not giving up, or just maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 years from now. I was instructed to go back and watch a reading that I did called Lightning over the last, I did it around December, but it was called Lightning, and I was told to go and watch it, obviously, in my just doing what I do. And in that reading, I was saying you could either start and change now and see what happens a year from now and where you are a year from now, or don't change and see where you are a year from now. If I can find the exact timestamp of that part of the reading, I'll put it in the description box if I can get like a link for the timestamp. But if not, then I'll just link the video. But it was talking about, yeah, just there has to be something done. And I started singing Lemon from Rihanna and Frail, who was one of the motherfuckers that we just talked about, and people looking, does he have one of those photos of somebody from the past looking like him now? Maybe he doesn't. I know Justin Timberlake does he? No, people just talk about Pharrell never aging. Like, so maybe that's something that, you know, that's a good quality. But I don't know if Pharrell has one of those things. But, okay, so disregard that if he does not have one of those photos of somebody from the past looking like him now. Disregard. But I was singing Lemon in that song. I was talking about somebody having a baby. And it was by Rihanna. And then obviously, you know, Rihanna came up with a baby. And she was cycling through the readings for a long time. So that's one note, is to just, when I'm doing readings, don't just look at it as like, ooh, immediate future. It plays out, just like the decisions that you make play out, or the decisions that you don't make, the leaps that you don't take play out, the leaps that you do take play out over time. So yeah, I was saying, like, see where you are a year from now, making the changes or not making the changes that you need to change. And then I was singing, yeah, Rihanna, Lemon. And then I heard that particular song, Lemon, twice. I heard it last week when I went into this little shop called Green Love Tomato or something like that. And I went in there and it was playing and I was like, huh, okay. And so a major part of The Alchemist is and those little check-ins like that let me know, ding, this is coming up. Hey, pay attention to this. Or, hey, you're right on track. Or just notice the synchronicities. Because in the book, yes, you might need to read The Alchemist, but in the book, and I recorded this a few months ago and still never posted it. And that's probably one of my own problems. But we were talking about learning how to recognize the omens. because I turned to page 33 in The Alchemist. As I said, I've said this before, turn to page 33 in The Alchemist, but that's kind of around there is where he was talking about learning how to pay attention to the omens, learning the way that God speaks to you. So I could tell you all day that I heard this song and it was from my reading, and it may not make sense to you because that's not the way that God communicates to you. I could tell you that I had a dream and this happened, but that doesn't make sense to you because that's not the way that God communicates to you. So you have to learn how to recognize the omens for what they are. I don't like to say omen because it sounds weird. Well, it's an omen. It's a sign. It's a synchronicity, you know? That's kind of what either lets you know whether you're in a time trap or whether you're on your timeline. So damn, I might need to go and reevaluate that myself. Well, not really. Well, I did actually identify the time trap. I did. And so when I say time trap, I just mean loop. I just mean loop. So yeah. I was writing we are our, and I didn't write ancestors, but I was just looking at it and I thought it said we are here. So maybe you're needing to know that you're not alone and that you do have, sometimes, to be honest, and I was going to say this in a message too, it's the people that you don't think have your back that have your back. It's the people that you don't think you can go to that you can actually go to. And sometimes that's our own self-limiting, like fear or worry. And it keeps us stuck because we just kind of like write these things off or write these people off or write whatever it is off. And I had that experience as well. So, your ancestors are here. Yahweh is here. Whoever you pray to or give your thanks to is here. And I don't feel I think that's what you need to know is you're not done. You're not done. I think that's all that I have now. And I love you. I'll be back when I'm back.